everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. Chris, good night last night for everybody who paid attention to us. And for those who didn't, make this something you understand. Tell them what they missed if they didn't pay attention yesterday, Chris.
Well, I mean, we talked about Akron was going to beat now I'm blanking on who Akron played, but Bowling Green.
They played Bowling Green, yeah.
Yeah, Bowling Green was horrible on the defensive end of the floor again. We said Buffalo would beat Miami of Ohio. I did put the money line up for those of you who didn't want to give the points, which would have turned out to be a good move because Buffalo gave up a 12-point lead before winning by 2. But still, when you put the money line up there, it's still a winner. And then the big one was the four-way that we had where we said Tennessee over Missouri. We said the Islanders would beat the Kraken. So thanks to Barry Trotz's team for doing us a favor for once, instead of finding ways to lose games like they've so commonly done. I watched part of the rock fight that was Boise State, San Diego State, and I was sitting there watching in the last 5 minutes and going, just keep the total down. You don't need to go put up any more points. Fortunately, Boise State helped by missing a whole bunch of free throws.
That was the thing we talked about in the breakdown, was that they were not good at that, and San Diego State was.
Yeah, and the funny thing was I was watching and the commentators were talking about how Boise State would hit almost 80% of their free throws in the last 8 or 9 games. You know what that did? That moved them all the way up to 349th in the country. Wow. Congratulations. You're still shooting about 65% of the line as a team. But that helped keep that one under the total because it was 121. And like we said, the first meeting only had 79 points. Yesterday it went all the way up to 115. 58-57 was the final. But that stayed under the 121. And we said Kent State would beat Ball State by – the line was 8.5. They ended up winning by, I think it was 11. They were down in the second half. Sincere Carey hit 10 threes, scored 42 points, helped carry the Golden Flashes to their 9th straight win. And if you looked at the shot in the dark segment yesterday, we had UNLV beating Nevada because, like Allie said, Monday fading Steve Alford's team is a full-time job. UNLV won outright. So, you could have cashed either way there. Richmond beat George Washington. Yale beat Dartmouth. Arkansas came back in the second half to beat Florida. Charleston knocked off Northeastern. The Leafs and the Blue Jackets ended up going over the total. Nashville and Florida went way over the total. That game was an offensive barn burner. The Ducks beat the Sharks in a shootout. The only two that didn't come up in that segment, St. Louis and Philadelphia, did not go over. It ended up 4-1 instead of going over 6. And Cal State Bakersfield, if you had bet the money line, which was minus 125, you would have hit a winner there too. The Roadrunners won 61-60, so they just missed out covering the 1.5 points over Cal Poly in the battle of 1-10 teams from the Big West. Ryan disappointed that the Sharks almost pulled out a win last night. They had their chances, but Anthony Stolarz really stood on his head late in that game and kept Anaheim in it so they could win in the shootout.
Well, there you go. I mean, all you can do is the best you can do, right? And we've shown people that that's what we try to do, is the best we can do. So, we got a couple of promos here for our friends at BetMGM. Let's get those in real quick. Be sure to take advantage of our BetMGM NBA promotion. First-time users of the MGM app, all you have to do is deposit and place a bet of $10 or more on any NBA game, which will be tomorrow because they're not playing today, and get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer, okay? That, my friends, is there's a pretty good chance you're going to be able to find one of those games where somebody's going to hit a three-pointer. So, as we say, be sure to take advantage of this BetMGM promotion. It's fun. It gives you an opportunity for first-time users of the MGM app. The deposit just $10 and make a play on any of the games. And if they hit a three-pointer, either team, then you get $200. Now, there's more. We also have a deal with MGM, which if you put, if you deposit $10 in your account, then they'll match your bet up to $1,000. That's free money from that standpoint. Remember, as we always say here, you must be 21 years or older to take advantage of this, and always bet responsibly. And so, speaking of betting responsibly, let's go to the board and let's see what's going on today, Chris, in college basketball.
Well, we've got familiar people that you're going to see today. It's a common theme. When somebody's doing you favors, you tend to ride them into the ground, and that's what we're going to do with Vermont. Vermont, they hurt us with that loss to Hartford, but that's their only loss in conference play. I should have switched that. They're not 10-0. That was a typo on my part because I was grabbing stuff off different slides as I was going along. Vermont is actually now 14-1 in the conference. I just didn't fix it. That's my fault. But they're facing Binghamton, a team that they beat by 31 points just 2 weeks ago at home. John Becker's team has been on a roll. They're going to be the top seed in the America East, and they will make life miserable for anybody that draws them in March Madness, barring some fluke where they don't win the conference tournament. They're facing a Binghamton team that's still below 500, 11-13. Binghamton's only 5-7 at home, which doesn't work when you're facing a Vermont team that's 8-4 on the road. Catamounts still in the top 100 in the nation in scoring offense. They're 5th in field goal percentage. They're 3rd in 2-point shooting. They're 45th in threes per game. They shoot well from outside, and they knock down free throws. Boise State, you could learn a lesson from John Becker's team. Then maybe you wouldn't be sweating out wins in the last second when a guy trips himself and then trips your player so you can get to the line with 2 seconds to go. Meanwhile, Binghamton 227th in scoring offense at 69.5 points a game. And they're 328th in free throw shooting, so they're not going to get themselves back into the game at the line with any stretch of the imagination. Vermont's 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 on the road against teams with a losing home record. Binghamton 0-3-1 against the spread in their last 4 at home. You look at that stat there. Vermont 38-8 all time against Binghamton. They've won the last 14 matchups between the teams, including, like I said, that 82-51 win 2 weeks ago. 12 of the 14 wins in that stretch have come by at least 14 points. I like Vermont. I know the money line is ugly if you want to go that route.
I was going to say minus 1450 is a pretty ugly money line.
It is, but I mean, if you slam it up with a bunch of other things, you can still end up making money out of it. I mean, if you looked at one of the ones we did yesterday, the 8 teams that were in the shot in the dark would have turned $100 into just under 13 grand. And even there, you had some ugly numbers because, I mean, Tennessee was favorite or went off at minus 630 or something like that. I mean, it's not as bad as this, but still, Binghamton is overmatched by Vermont, and you have to think the Catamounts will win their 3rd straight game since that 1-point overtime loss to Hartford on Valentine's Day. Then you look ahead, they've got UMass Lowell on Saturday. They've got Maine next Tuesday in the regular season finale. It's a real good shot that Vermont has 25 wins going into the America East tournament. And that's a track record you can't overlook at this point in time. And if you look, Vermont doesn't get beaten badly. Their worst loss of the year was by 11 points to Maryland in the second game of the season, back when Maryland meant something. They lost by 10 at Providence. They lost by 3 to Greensboro. They lost by 2 to Oakland, and they lost by 1 to Hartford. So you're looking at 3 games that were decided by 3 points or less. Vermont could be sitting 25-2 right now.
Right. And they're winning by big numbers too, so that's a good thing for them.
Yeah, just to look at their wins lately, they beat just in February. They beat New Jersey Institute of Technology by 23. They beat UMass Lowell by 11. They beat Binghamton by 31. They beat Albany by 13. They beat New Hampshire by 21, and they're coming off a 27-point win over UMBC over the weekend. So yeah, Vermont is destroying teams, not quite at a Gonzaga type clip, but they're
close.
Yeah, they're still wiping teams out. With authority, for lack of better terminology.
Well, and there's no, they haven't quite made that change yet at Binghamton, where they are known as the Fighting Kornheisers. That's the a place where Tony Kornheiser graduated. So they haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're pretty soon that they'll be changing the Bearcats to the Fighting Kornheisers. But anyway, we move on from Vermont and Binghamton, and
we're going to move on to our game. Yeah, we're going to move on to our other buddies. That's right. Colgate.
That's right. Not the toothpaste, but the college.
Well, I mean, they could be like the toothpaste because they've been cleaning up. Let's face it, the Raiders. We've talked about they were 4-10 at one point
Mm-hmm.
this season. Now they have won 14 of their last 15 games. Their one loss in that stretch was a 4-point setback at BU back in late January. Then they turned around and beat BU by 19 at home last weekend. You're looking at a Colgate team. They've already locked down the top seed in the Patriot League tournament. They're 14-2. So that game with Navy will still be big for the midshipmen as they're going to try to lock down the number 2 seed in the conference tournament. And we'll talk to Pete about that on Friday. I'm sure he'll be looking forward to that one. Holy Cross, they're coming in off a road win over that Navy team that we were just discussing Saturday, but Holy Cross is overmatched here. You look at the numbers, they don't bear out well for the Crusaders. Colgate 76th in scoring offense, 51st in field goal percentage. They knock down 10 threes a game. They shoot 39.3% from out there. Holy Cross is just 307th in scoring offense, 65.4 points a game. They shoot 41.7 from the field, 44.6% from two. They don't hit a lot of threes, and they're mediocre at the charity stripe. You look, Colgate leads the league in the Patriot League in offense at 75.8 points a game in conference play. They're second in scoring defense at 62.8, so they're outscoring teams by 13 points a game in the conference. Holy Cross, 8th out of the 10 teams in the Patriot League at 65 points a night. They're 7th in scoring defense. Colgate 4-0 in their last 4 after an ATS loss. Holy Cross 8-23 in their last 31 at home against teams with a losing road record. Now, sure, Colgate is 7-10 on the road, but let's not overlook some of the teams that they lost to on the road. They lost to Harvard. They lost to Pitt. They lost to St. John's. They lost to Vermont. They lost to Lehigh. They also lost to Boston U. NC State and Cornell. Those were all road games. We're not going to say Holy Cross is at the level of any of those teams when you get right down to it. I mean, they might be at the level of Pitt because Pitt's not that great. But the rest of those teams, NC State, an ACC team, they lost by 3 there.
Mm-hmm.
They lost by 5 in overtime to Tommy Amaker up at Harvard. I don't think Holy Cross is going to put up that much of a fight. I look for Colgate to just keep rolling along, make it 11 straight wins, 15 out of 16. They'll take care of business and roll to the victory here over a game, but overmatched Holy Cross squad.
It's funny when Pete and when we get a chance to talk to Pete on Friday about it. Colgate and the Patriot League in general plays a very competitive non-conference schedule, and it's really phenomenal what they have been able to do over the years. So we'll see. Like you said, they lost to Tommy Amaker's team at Harvard, but there's quality there. They're not a Vermont type, but the Patriot League's a tougher league than Vermont's in, and
right. And just to speak to your point about non-conference opponents, you look at Navy. Navy beat Virginia to open the season in Charlottesville. They went to they came down here and beat Furman at the Timmons Arena.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Marist from the MAC, and you talk about Holy Cross, they don't have any big wins, but they went to Boston College. They faced Air Force. They faced LaSalle. They faced a lot of teams from the Mid-America or from the Metro Atlantic. They faced Hartford. So you're right. The Patriot League, they go and face quality opponents. Army, look at who Army faced. Army faced South Carolina. They faced Duke. They faced quality opponents. And that's the thing, you see, where some of these mid-majors don't get a chance to do that. The Patriot League seems to embrace it.
They do. And besides being good academic schools, these these schools in the Patriot League are also very good athletic schools on a number of different fields, not just on the hardwood, but playing football and other sports. So it's a fun league to watch, and it's one of the premier over the years mid majors to keep an eye on, especially when tournament time, because they always sneak somebody in there that causes them a little bit of trouble.
And Colgate has been a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, from this we move over to the ice, where we're going to have some fun in the NHL tonight, and we get to see our friends and neighbors from the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I actually like Winnipeg here as an underdog on the road in Dallas. I know the Jets are just 9-10-7 on the road, while the Stars are 17-7-1 at home. But you look ahead, the Stars also have to face Nashville tomorrow on the road. You have to think they might be looking a little bit ahead. The Stars are right behind Nashville in the standings. But guess what? You know who's right behind the Stars? The Jets.
Oh, I know. Yes,
uh,
Winnipeg.
yep. So, I mean, Winnipeg is going to be focused for this one. They're coming off a 3-1 loss to the Flames on Monday, where they gave up the goal-ahead goal with 46 seconds left in regulation. They're going to be motivated. Connor Hellebuyck, 17-18-7, and 280 goals against, a 914 save percentage, and 3 shutouts for Winnipeg. I mean, Jake Ottinger, 15-6-0 with a 234 goals against, a 921 save percentage, and 1 shutout for the Stars. That's right, Jim. Braden Holtby not getting the call tonight.
Well, you had
And
mentioned before that you thought Jake Ottinger would be the guy that they should put in net.
you would think that he would be. I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, they're a lot better than Holtby's when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
For the record, Holtby comes in to this one. He's got a record of, let's see. I always like to look at this just for comparison's sake. Holtby is, what is he, right around a 500 goaltender, I think. He is 9-10 with a 278 goals against and a 912 save percentage. No shutouts. Of course, he's lost his last 2 starts, but in his defense, Dallas didn't score any goals in either of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess when it's tough to win when nobody scores.
It does make it difficult. There's no question about it.
Both teams mediocre in lighting the lamp. The Jets are 19th at 2.88 goals a game. Dallas 2.86. They're 21st. Both teams right in the middle of the pack when it comes to keeping the puck out of their own net. Winnipeg 16th at 2.92. Dallas 18th at 2.94. Like we said, Stars playing the front half of a back-to-back. They're going to face Nashville Thursday night, which will be, as Matt told us yesterday, Pekka Rinne's jersey will be retired and raised to the Raptors at the Bridgestone Arena. Should be an emotional night there. Dallas 3-8 in their last 11 on Wednesday. The Jets 3-1-2 in the last 6 meetings between these teams. If you wanted to take the puck line, the Jets are going off at minus 225 to get the plus 1.5. Could be a safer bet if you think that Dallas will win 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that. But I like the Jets outright here.
You know, the other thing too is Winnipeg really has flourished since moving from Atlanta up to their nice little tight 14,000 seat arena there.
Oh, the Bell's what was the Bell MTS place? I don't even know what the hell it's called now.
No, it's called the Building. Yeah, it's
that place down the street.
Yeah, they did a smart thing in that with the Jets arena, and basically what they did is they knew what their season ticket base could be, and they added an additional, say, 3,000 or 4,000 seats to it, and basically, they're playing to sell out crowds, and you're topping off about 15,000 people in the arena every night, and places rocking, and Winnipeg, of course, has always been a good hockey town, so good on them.
And yeah, it's always been a good hockey town, but that didn't stop them from moving the original Jets to Arizona.
Well, let's just get into the problem of the business versus, the concept was, okay, Winnipeg is a small hamlet. Let's move to wonderful Arizona where we're going to have all that money and all those people. And there was money there for a little while, but there never was people. And that's the problem that is the cactus. There's nothing we can do about that. So moving on from Winnipeg and Dallas, we move to
the cactus.
The cactus, the aforementioned
foreshadowing, kids.
The aforementioned Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, the Kings. They've played well. I think they're ahead of schedule. Really, I mean, they're playing with a lot of younger guys mixed in with some veterans. Obviously, Jonathan Quick hoping that he can carry his team to the postseason. I like them here on the road down at. I guess they're still playing in the Gila River Arena for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Before they move to that, closet that they're going to play on Arizona State's campus.
Yeah. Until the time comes that they're bigger closet is finished.
Yeah, and like Matthew just said, the Coyotes are going to go to the new arena in Arizona State. It looks small for an AHL team. What's it seat, like 5 or 7,000, something like that?
It's less than 10 for sure.
So, I mean, on the bright side, it'll actually look like there's people at an Arizona Coyotes game next season.
And the
Um,
beer's unlikely to cost $10 a you
no,
know.
no, James said it was like $16.
Is that what it was? 16. Oy.
Yeah.
Well, he should
Um,
be in good shape. James, you should be okay, buddy.
but you think about it, it'll look like there's people at the game. The problem is the attendance will still probably be about what it is now.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Like I said, Winnipeg fit the arena to their crowd. If that were the case for Arizona, that then they would be playing in a parking lot at a Walmart in you know out in Phoenix. But at this point, we'll see how it goes. But the Kings have been playing well. I did see part of a game the other night. I can't remember who they were playing. It was they were in conference. I want to say Anaheim, but I could be wrong. Anyway, Jonathan Quick was, there wasn't anything getting by him, and not that night.
Yeah, they played. Well, let's see. The Kings played. Well, they played Arizona on Saturday. They played Vegas on Friday.
Okay, it must have been Arizona.
Well, then that's no surprise that nothing was getting by him because the Coyotes don't score.
That's a good point. So the Kings are 4-0 in the last 4 road games. They're 8-1 in the last 9. 7-2 in the last 9 games as a favorite.
Yeah, and they've won the last 6 meetings in Glendale.
That's a definite, that's a definite tell right there. Sometimes, if you're looking for a sign, that might be the stat to look out for. Okay, let's take a minute, talk about BetMGM, another promotion. We talked about the NBA. Okay, let's talk about this one. This one is, only new people are eligible for this bonus, and it must be claimed within the next 7 days after signing up. So, what is it that you're going to get? Right? Okay, here's what you're going to get from BetMGM. You're going to get from BetMGM. They're going to give you, all the new customers, a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000, and it's for only new players. And as we said before, the key here is you put down 10 grand, I'm sorry, $10, excuse me, and they will match you all the way up to 1,000. Okay, so whatever you bet, they'll match it, and that gives you an opportunity to win more. Here's the total details. Once you create an account and make your first deposit, place any real money sports bet between $10 and $1,000, and they're going to match it for you. Okay, so that's our BetMGM promo 2. Promo 1 was the NBA. Promo 2 is this one. Again, remember, you must be 21 years of age to play and bet responsibly. All the information on both those promos is in our show box below. So be sure to check it out. Okay. All right.
Now, Jim Matthew has a good comment here. He was watching the Predators Florida game last night. It looks like Florida has an attendance problem. What do you make of that?
Florida
Down
has
there?
always had an attendance problem, Matthew, my friend. They play in an arena which is almost on the edge of the Everglades. Okay. So, I don't think there's enough mosquito repellent in the world to keep you from getting bit out there. They make money in that arena by having concerts. That's frankly the way it is. There was 2 years ago, New Jersey played against Florida in that arena, and 700 people showed up. Okay, to a National Hockey League game that was pre-COVID. Okay, so that'll give you an idea. And the sad part of it, in many ways, is that Florida has played very well over the last couple of years, and they're playing well this year. And it's very sad that they don't have an attendance situation. But there again, that's another problem with the NHL. There's some franchises like Arizona and Florida that they just don't draw. In case of Florida, they play decent hockey, but the situation is there? Where do they move them, right? And right now, there just isn't a viable place for them to go. For years, I guess we all thought that there might be, and Chris, you know this, you've seen this story 1,000 times over. where Arizona might end up in Hamilton, but the franchise fee that Toronto would extract for that would be worth more than the franchise, the Arizona franchise is worth. So I don't see that happening.
Well, to a
And
lesser extent, Buffalo would probably have territorial rights too, because Hamilton's not that far from them either.
true, but the big row, to use a British term, um, comes from Toronto, making the biggest thing. I think Buffalo is pretty solid with what they have. They probably wouldn't be worried about Hamilton as much as Toronto would. And Toronto really, frankly, shouldn't be concerned about Hamilton, but they are.
Well,
So
I mean,
that's
look at when the ABA folded and the Nets went to New York. I mean, the Knicks
mhm.
extracted what $3 million.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, didn't the Knicks extract like $3 million for the right to put the Nets in New
In
Jersey?
Brooklyn? Yeah.
Yeah, no, in New Jersey back in the '70s.
Yeah, well, that's when the ABA merged with the NBA. Yeah, they got a $3 million bump. The funny part of that was a part of the contract which was silly at the time. It wasn't silly. It's silly now. It wasn't silly, I guess, at the time. And that was St. Louis was supposed to have been included in the deal, um, but the team was just not viable at the time. So what they did is they knew that the St. Louis franchise couldn't make it in the ABA. So what did they do? They allowed the owners of the St. Louis Spirit, the voice of the St. Louis Spirit, Bob Costas. Um, they gave them NBA television rights in perpetuity. So the St. Louis owners of the ABA team reap the benefits of every NBA contract and every NBA contract since the ABA NBA merger due to that one little stroke of a pen in one little clause of a contract that says in perpetuity they're getting NBA television rights. So
It's a good
you know,
deal if you can get it.
well, yeah, and they did. So there you go. Don't have to worry about playing basketball. Don't have to worry about owning a team. You just cash those checks like Bobby. It's like Bobby Bonilla we were talking about yesterday. Those just keep cashing them. Only in Bobby's case, it ends in 36. In this case, for the owners of the Spirit, it never ends. So there you go.
In Bonilla's case, by the time he's 2035 or 2036, he'll be like 72. So I
Well,
mean,
it'll
he's been
seem like
getting
in perpetuity for him. Yeah.
he's been getting paid $1 million a year and hasn't played in the league since 2001.
Yeah. Hey, it's a nice insurance policy.
And our
So
buddy Nathan said he had 2 7-teamers yesterday.
well done, you, Nathan. How about
So
that?
good night for you. Good night for us. Good night for
Yeah.
anybody that watched the show. Bad
Yeah.
night for anybody that didn't.
That's right. And if you didn't, check out the podcast because it comes up right after us. So if you
And
miss it,
Matthew, glad that the over cashed. I thought Tennessee would take advantage of the poor defense that Missouri played. So we put them in the 4-teamer yesterday, and that panned out too.
well, that was if you remember, Matthew was talking about he was concerned about Tennessee all day yesterday.
Yeah,
So,
well, he was worried about the total because of the fact
right.
that a lot of people were thinking it was going to go under. But Rick Barnes, all he's done anywhere he goes is win. I mean, look at all the places he's been.
He has hit them all. There's no question about that.
And you think he's been at Clemson, he's been at Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He was at George Mason.
Yep.
Wasn't he somewhere else that I'm missing?
I think he was. I don't know. There was a smaller school I thought that he was at, but I got to be wrong.
Smaller than George Mason?
No, George Mason's a pretty decent sized commuter school.
He was at Providence. That's the one I was missing.
Providence. So that's the smaller school. Okay. Small Catholic school, but very, very pretty university. All right. So let's go for some, speaking of money, let's go two for the money.
Toronto broke everyone's heart yesterday. They tied that game up and then promptly lost 20 seconds into overtime.
20 seconds in overtime.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So we'll just move on and just say that we'll just say that it didn't pan out. I know they were tired playing after playing in Montreal, though they were flat in that game Monday night too. Hopefully they'll bounce back.
Okay, let's go shoot for the money. And
All
here we go.
right. And their games we already talked about. We talked about Vermont and we talked about Binghamton. Vermont, there's no reason why they shouldn't win this game comfortably. Like we said, they've won 14 straight against Binghamton. 12 of them have come by 14 or more points, including that 31-point win 2 weeks ago. Guess what? I don't think things have changed all that much for the better if you're Binghamton, or that much for the worse if you're Vermont. They should win by, I'm imagining, probably around 20 points, unless they decide to just take a nap in the middle of the game. Colgate, same thing. Holy Cross, Holy Cross are coming off a win over Navy. Colgate already has the top seed for the Patriot League, but Matt Langel's team, they want to do the best they can to position themselves for a favorable spot somewhere in some postseason tournament. Jim, are they going to play in NIT this year? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what?
Are they going to have an NIT this year? Because we've seen...
As far as I know, they have planned on it. So
okay, because I
there's
know the
also that other tournament that a made-for-TV tournament, which was it the college...
CIT or the CBI?
Yeah, one of those. It starts with a C and ends with an A, I think. I'm not sure what it is. And basically that's for maybe a handful of other schools as well. So
yeah, I see the CBI is 16 teams, but the dumb thing is for that is you actually have to pay to get into the tournament.
Well, yeah.
It's like, here, you want to be in a tournament? Give us some money.
Well, let me let you in a little thing on the NIT, okay? The NIT, if you get chosen to play in the NIT, you must guarantee the NIT a sellout in your arena if you're hosting. If you don't, then the other side, let's just use Colgate and Holy Cross for an example, right? If that game was given to Colgate to host it, then Colgate would have to fill the building. Let's say it's a 5,000 seat building. They have to guarantee the NIT that it's going to be, to the rim. Same case, if they couldn't do it, then they go to Holy Cross and say, okay, is this what, can you do it? And if Holy Cross says yes, then the whole game is at Holy Cross. So that's...
you're only going to have like 3 people there.
Well, if the arena is, if the capacity at the arena is 3, then they're good. A lot of times that's where the boosters come in. They buy up a bunch of tickets and then give them to kids in the, all different kinds of charitable organizations in the area. So just to keep the building full.
It looks like John paid attention to what Allie talked about the other day, teasing. He said he teased Buffalo and Akron, where, you can get an alternate point spread and go that route. You didn't need it for Akron. They won by, I want to say it was like 14 points,
right?
Something like that. I know Buffalo only won by 2, but that's why we said, you could always roll the money line and go with that too. Glad it worked out for you, John. It's always good to have people come back and say they had a good night as opposed to, we got shot in the foot because we decided to bet on Duke minus 703 over, Pennsylvania A&I Tech State Community College U.
Or as we used to, those of us usually watch Bullwinkle, What's the Matter You?
Yeah, them too.
Good old What's the Matter You? So we got the Kings and the Coyotes. There's no question that's going to. The Avalanche, they're playing well, and they're playing the Red Wings tonight.
Yeah, they're playing in Detroit. My one concern, that's why I put the money line up there just in case people are worried if Colorado can outscore Detroit by 2, is the fact that, Colorado, they've had their issues putting the puck in the net lately. They've scored 2 or less in 3 of their last 4 and 3 or less in 5 of their last 7. Now, of course, it is Detroit, and Detroit's not necessarily a great defensive team. Dylan Larkin is questionable for the Red Wings tonight with an undisclosed injury. You got to love those when it comes to hockey. He's hurt, but we're not going to tell you how he's hurt. We're not going to tell you how he got hurt. All you need to know is that he's injured. And that's the
But
great part about hockey injury reports, because it's always upper body injury or lower body injury. We're not going to tell you what it is.
or my favorite, the healthy scratch that happens about 10 minutes before you know the uh, the teams hit the ice. You're like, what healthy scratch? The guy looked great in practice this morning. He's just not playing today.
Yeah, we just decided he doesn't need to take the ice. So
Yeah, don't worry about it, buddy. Just wear your jersey and come out and have a good time.
yeah,
All
just,
right, let's
just
go
sit on the
full.
bench and drink all the Gatorade.
Right, yeah. Enjoy yourself. Okay, so we've had our 2 for the money. Let's go 4 for the show.
Right, and we're going to go with Winnipeg. Like I said, the puck line, if you want to take it because you think Dallas might win by 1, is at minus 200. The money line is plus 130. I like them over Dallas. I think Dallas is going to be looking ahead to that game against Nashville tomorrow night. Um, Winnipeg knows they need to win games to get into the playoff picture in the crowded Western Conference, and it starts here. Rutgers. Somebody explain to me why Rutgers is a 5-point underdog against a Michigan team that won't have their coach, that had 2 players suspended, and that hasn't looked all that impressive anyway. Um, Meanwhile, you're talking about a Rutgers team. They lost to Purdue. I'm not going to fault them for losing to Purdue. It's probably because we didn't talk about Purdue that particular day. But you look before that, they beat Michigan State by 21. They beat Ohio State. They beat Wisconsin in Madison, and they beat Illinois. If that's not a murderer's row of teams to beat, all 4 of those teams ranked in the top, 40 in the Ken Palm ratings. Now you get to face a Michigan team that, like we said, they're coming off that 14-point loss to Wisconsin. They've lost 2 out of 3. They've lost 3 out of 6. They already lost at Rutgers back in January. What makes you think that all of a sudden, that a 14-11 Michigan team should be favored just because they're playing at the Chrysler Center? Phil Martelli, I remember when he coached at St. Joseph's, didn't realize he was an assistant at Michigan until I found out he was coaching in place of Juwan Howard.
Right.
But what are you going to do now, with the suspensions? You're not going to have Musa Diabate, who's been a big contributor for the Wolverines. Nobody really cares about Terrence Williams being out because he barely does anything anyway. But, why should Michigan be favored here?
I don't know it, but if you look at it, you got Scarlet Knights from Rutgers and Michigan. Then you got Wisconsin and Minnesota. So basically, you have in Rutgers and Michigan, and then Wisconsin and Minnesota. You've got a doubleheader, which probably is the highlight tonight for TNT Wrestling. After what happened on Saturday, I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, I covered Juwan when he was a player in Michigan, and then in the NBA. There might not be an easier to get along with human being on the planet than Juwan Howard. I was stunned, frankly, when I saw what happened, because if you told me it was Chris, right? I went, yeah, I got no, yeah, I can see where Chris would have done that, but Chris Webber, I'm sorry,
Right.
Weber, yes. Juwan, no, he was always the chill guy. I don't know what the heck happened, but he went off his nut, and Michigan, rightfully so. I mean, you fined 40 grand. He won't be able to coach again until the tournament. And, he's lucky, frankly, that he had that relatively pristine background. Otherwise, he might have been bounced from Michigan.
Yeah, I was concerned about that too. I mean, I thought he might get as Dick Vitale would say, I thought he might get the Ziggy.
Right.
But somehow he's going to survive. Whether that lasts in the offseason, if Michigan gets knocked out early in the tournament, you have to wonder, will Michigan revisit that and contemplate changing things up?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Michigan, by the way, let's say just for sake of argument, Phil Martelli guides them to a 4 or 5 game winning streak. But I don't have any. I think Michigan has maybe 4 or 5 games left.
Yeah, I think they play Rutgers, they play Illinois, they play Michigan State at home. Then they have Iowa at home next Thursday, and they close at Ohio State on March 6th.
All right, so they have 5 games left. Let's say that Martelli's got them going into the tournament on a 5 game winning streak. You got to wonder if they pull the trigger on on giving Martelli the keys to the team and saying, you know what, Juwan, tell you what, why don't you take a vacation, buddy? We'll send you your cash, and you two can watch from the stands. I don't know. I mean, Michigan has done. I don't know if you remember when Bill Frieder got fired.
Yeah, and Steve Fisher took over.
And Steve Fisher took him to a national championship almost. I mean, it was that. No, he did take him to a national championship.
Yeah, that was the game where Ramil Robinson got to go to the free throw line late in the game, and
Right. So yeah,
screwed over PJ Carlissimo.
and the thing there was that if I remember correctly, the reason there was I remember everybody was freaking because we were doing the game, and all of a sudden Fisher's coaching the team, and Bo Schembechler, who was the AD at the time, basically said that he had heard that Bill Frieder had been interviewing or talking to Arizona State, and he said, I want a Michigan man coaching the Michigan team, and Frieder had not even accepted the job yet at Arizona State. And,
when he told Schembechler of his intentions, Schembechler ordered Frieder to leave immediately. When announcing the promotion, Schembechler famously said, quote, I don't want someone from Arizona State coaching the Michigan team. A Michigan man is going to coach Michigan.
That's right. And Steve Fisher got the Battlefield promotion. Let's see what Phil Martelli does with the Battlefield promotion tonight. Wisconsin has been playing, pretty good basketball. They haven't been fighting well, but they've been playing pretty good basketball in it.
And I don't understand how they're only a 5-point favorite. I get the games in Minnesota, but Minnesota won't have Peyton Willis. Mm-hmm. He's out. I believe he has COVID.
Yeah.
But, that's a big blow to them. You look – Minnesota, sure, they were 11-5 at one point. They were 10-1 before conference play. Mm-hmm. They're 4-12 in the Big 12 or the Big 10. Sure, they beat Northwestern at home Saturday. So what? They beat Northwestern. Who cares? And, yeah, they hung tough in the first meeting against Wisconsin. They lost by 6 on the road. But, again, who cares? That was before. Since then, Wisconsin's been on a roll. You're looking at a Minnesota team that had lost 11 out of 13 before they beat Northwestern. So they were 10-1. They're now 13-12.
Okay, now I have a question for you, my friend.
Sure.
This one is a little confusing to me.
Okay.
Wyoming, who is a team we've liked all year, and Colorado State is a team we've liked all year.
Yep.
How is it that the Cowboys are getting 7 points in this game?
Because the odds makers are drunk and think that because the game's in Fort Collins that Colorado State should get a big advantage. They hung tough in Wyoming, and this is a great name. They've renamed the building in Laramie. Instead of being the Arena Auditorium for Wyoming, it's now being known as the Dome of Doom, which I personally like a lot better. And I'm going to start.
Yeah. Indiana Jones comes out as your mascot. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But, Wyoming won by 6 in overtime in the first meeting. And like I said the other day, Colorado State, they're 21-2 against everyone else that's not named UNLV. For some reason, they went 0-2 against the Rebels. Kevin Kruger's done a good job with them. Yeah. I think Colorado State will probably win this game, but they're not going to win it by 7. I mean, the first game was by 6, and that went to overtime.
Well, my theory of the case on why I was questioning it with you was these two teams are too closely matched. I would think I wouldn't give if I don't see Colorado. I think Colorado giving 7 points is a gift.
Yeah, like I said, I was surprised when I saw it too. I thought that it would be 4, maybe 5 points at most, but 7 is, like you said, it's a gift. So far, it's been bumped down to 6.5, but still. When we said the first meeting was decided by 6, and they needed overtime to decide that, which means
get to it.
What that means. It means that Wyoming hit free throws,
right?
And don't get me wrong, both these teams can shoot free throws. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. Colorado State's not a bad team there. This might be, if you got some time, folks, this might be the game to watch tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot better than some of the other games that are out there. It's a lot better than watching Boise State, San Diego State last night, unless you like watching.
People miss the basket. Yes.
Yeah. Oh God, I watched. The sad part was, in that game. They were down. Boise State was down 1 with 10 seconds to go, and the guy tried to shoot a fadeaway 28-footer that he airballed, and he airballed it to the left. So, I mean, it wasn't even close. He was trying to draw a foul. They foul the guy for San Diego State. They're talking about he's an 80% free throw shooter. Of course, then he goes and bricks 2 in a row. So Boise State comes down the other way. The guy for San Diego State tripped himself. He tripped over his own feet, then fell down and tripped the guy from Boise State to put him on the line. And he managed to knock down 2 free throws to give Boise State the win. But games like that, they're interesting until you're wondering.
Until they're not. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, boy, I hope he doesn't make one and miss one and put this game in overtime and then end up over the total.
Right.
But fortunately, he made them both. But just to the point, Boise State was 17 of 26 at the line yesterday. San Diego State 7 of 11.
Oh, there you go. San Diego State only got to the line 11 times.
Yeah.
That's
Boise State only committed 14 fouls.
Yeah, that shows you some discipline there.
Sadly, they only played 7 guys. So Boise State, Leon Rice is going to have trouble if he's going that thin of a rotation. It's not going to work when you get to tournament time.
No, you got to go 10 deep in the tournament. And, let's be honest, you could get away with having 7 players that are decent if you can get 3 players who are not going to kill you in the 4 or 5 minutes that you take the guy out. Because the great thing about tournaments, right, because of television, those timeouts are longer than, if you take a guy off the floor and you get a commercial break or so in there, you're talking, that 4 or 5 minutes really is 5 or, add another 4 or 5 to it, you're close to 8 or 9 minutes. So you're giving a kid a pretty decent time, a good blow there. But you at least have to have 3 or 4 guys that 8, 9, 10 part of your bench that's not going to hurt you out there, while the other guys, they're good too. So it'll be interesting. You're right. Depth does play a huge role in how far you get into the tournament.
Especially if one of your starting 5 that you're averaging 30 plus minutes a game gets in foul trouble.
That's 100% true. So there you go, boys and girls. Listen to the man. That's why he's the king. All right, we're going to go for our wonderful buffet,
which would have been profitable for everybody yesterday.
Wow, look at all that.
Yeah, that's because of all the stupid overhangs. But that's what you get for having a bigger font, right?
So you have to start with the Bulls. Okay, thanks. I really appreciate that.
Well, but
see, that
way we could just gloss right over it instead of talking about it in the middle.
I think we just move on, okay?
There you go. Jim said South Florida's going to lose. So
I will give this to you real simple. East Carolina will beat South Florida. Moving on.
Okay, so we'll move on to Navy. Like we said, Navy will be playing only for the 2nd spot in the Patriot League. I think they'll take care of business against Loyola of Maryland tonight. That game coming to, I believe it's from Annapolis. Let me double check real quick. Yes, it is from Annapolis. Navy beat Loyola Maryland on the road by 1 a couple weeks ago. They play better at home. I know they got upended by Holy Cross the other night. But I think they bounce back here because they don't want to end up 3rd in the Patriot League tournament. They currently sit 1 game ahead of BU. So they want to stay in front of them, especially with that game against Colgate looming Saturday. I think they'll prevail. Providence, -1 over Xavier. I've watched this line go up and down and up and down. 1 point, Providence was an underdog by 1.5 points. Now they're favored by 1. I don't get it. Providence plays well at home. Ed Cooley's team has been good all season, and they play well in close games, which is something you can't say about Xavier. Just a quick look. Providence has gone – where the heck is it? Yeah, Providence is 14-1 at home. Xavier's 4-4 on the road. They've lost 4 of their last 5. I'm surprised the line's only 1 point. I know that, playing at home isn't what it used to be, but you're looking at the fact that Xavier has lost to DePaul, Seton Hall, St. John's, and UConn in the last 5 games. They beat UConn in the middle at home. But you're looking – I can't figure out Travis Steele's team. I thought they were going to be better than this. They started off 11-1. Since then, they're 6-8. They're kind of like Minnesota or Michigan. I know Elliot said Michigan plays well after a loss. Well, Elliot, Michigan was 7-4 at one point. Since then, they're 7-7. So I
They
like
don't play
Rutgers.
that well off their loss.
Right. And they had a 3-game skid earlier this season where they lost to, of all people, they lost to Johnny Dawkins and UCF by 14. Then they lost to Rutgers. Then they lost to Illinois. Then they won 3 in a row. Then they lost to Michigan. Then they beat Nebraska. Then they lost to Purdue. Then they won a couple. Then they lost to Ohio State. They edged Iowa. Then they lost to Wisconsin. Without Diabate and stuff, I just don't like Michigan. And like you said, it could be beneficial for Phil Martelli.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Gets a chance. You never know. So the Battle of Jacksonville is next. The private school, the Jacksonville Dolphins, takes on the public school, a state school, North Florida.
And contrary to popular belief, Artis Gilmore will not use up the rest of his eligibility
Or
by
Pembroke
playing tonight.
Burroughs, yeah.
But yeah, Jacksonville's a better team. Let's face it. North Florida, I guess we can say they're better than South Florida.
No, they're not. They're a relatively new team. North Florida's sports program is relatively new. That being said, they have had some decent baseball teams at North Florida. They've had a couple of decent, of all things, lacrosse at North Florida, oddly enough.
The most galling stat for this game, Jim, is this. Jacksonville is 42nd in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage.
Uh-huh.
North Florida gives up the highest offensive rebounding percentage in the nation.
So basically, they're the Lilliputians.
Yeah, basically, if Jacksonville misses a shot, you've got a pretty damn good shot that they're going to get their own rebound.
And this is without Pembroke Burroughs and Artis Gilmore.
Right.
And Rex. What was Rex's name? Rex Morgan.
Yep.
For that team.
But looking at, there's one guy that's taller than 6'8" or 6'9" for North Florida, but he's 6'10" and weighs 180 pounds. So I think a stiff breeze will knock him over.
Yeah, that's you got to feed that son of a gun. Was it Dan Marley that used to coach Grand Canyon?
Yep, Thunder Dan.
Yeah, okay.
Then they fired him because, they didn't think he was getting in the tournament enough.
Well, look at that money line on Chicago State.
Well, you know why? Chicago State is horrible.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying.
I mean, come on. Don't you remember we had that awesome game between IUPUI and Chicago State?
Yeah.
I mean, now Bryce Drew.
Everybody was hanging on that one.
Yeah. Now Bryce Drew is coaching at Grand Canyon. So.
Oh, well.
So, I mean, at least there's a decent.
There's lineage there. There's definitely lineage.
Chicago State 6-21. They've lost 8 in a row. Of those 8 losses, 6 of them have come by at least 13 points.
So the Antelopes are going to outrun the Cougars.
Yeah, the Cougars might as well should just not show up. But
save the bus trip. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chattanooga Mocs. I like them over East Tennessee State. When you get right down to it, the Mocs have pretty much locked up the SoCon top seed because they swept Furman, and Furman's the only team that can catch them. East Tennessee State, mediocre. That's enough to say about that. Colorado and Detroit, I look to stay under 6.5. Like we said, Colorado hasn't scored a ton of late. Detroit doesn't really score that much either. Pavel Francouz in net for Colorado tonight. He's 7-2. Look for him to shut down Detroit. By the same token, Buffalo and Montreal, I like to stay under 6. I know Buffalo was involved in a high-scoring game Sunday. I watched them lose 7-3 to Columbus. Montreal's been in some high-scoring games, but, let's face it, the Canadiens are still dead last in goals per game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect this to be a high-scoring affair. Same token, Edmonton at Tampa Bay down there at the Amalie Arena. Tampa Bay gets played for the first time in a week. I look for it to go over. There's too much offensive talent, coupled with Edmonton's shaky goaltending, and I have to wonder how Vasilevsky will perform after not playing for a week. You saw how they struggled coming out of the break at Christmas time, where they had that 9-3 game to Florida.
Right.
At Winnipeg, Dallas, I look to stay under 5.5. It'll probably be a 3-2, 3-1 kind of game, just because that's the way those things go.
That's the way it works.
Real quick, James asking about St. John's and Davidson. St. John's, who do they play? Is it Butler? God, tell me. No, it's Creighton. God, is there a team that's more annoying than Creighton? Put together a good game and then turn around and suck and then play another good game. They played better of late. They've won 5 in a row. They edged Marquette at home. St. John's is giving 5. Is that what it is? 5 points?
I think so, yeah.
I would probably take the points and Creighton beat St. John's by 23 in Omaha earlier this season, and St. John's is just they're another team that's inconsistent. I thought that they put together that big beatdown of Butler. They beat Xavier, but they also lost to Villanova and UConn and Providence and everybody else. I'd probably take the points. I don't have enough faith in St. John's. Davidson, they're favored by probably about 600 points because I know they're playing our good buddies at Duquesne. They beat they beat the Dukes by 11 in the first meeting at home. They're favored by 8.5 here. You just look, Davidson's 8-2 on the road. Duquesne is 3-9 at home.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, Duquesne has lost 12 straight. They're coming off a 26-point loss at St. Bonaventure. Before that, they lost at home by 21 to George Washington. And let me tell you, the Colonials aren't anything to be excited about by any stretch of the imagination. Davidson should win that one comfortably.
There you go. Any other questions there, buddy?
Loyola University. Oh, Chicago versus Evansville.
Which Loyola?
Yeah, the Ramblers.
Oh, okay.
Evansville is terrible. I mean, we've talked about that how many times?
Number of times.
The only thing that scares me is the fact that it's 20.5 points. I would stay away from it just because
that's a lot of points. Yeah.
Yeah, I would stay away. I just don't trust the fact that Evansville is one of those teams that'll throw in one of those game performances just to piss you off. Like we saw with Illinois State, they lost to Illinois State by 38 the first meeting back in January. Then they turned around and went home. After Illinois State scored 94 in the first meeting, they scored 53 in the second, and Evansville took a 3-point win.
Take a couple of those games we gave you. Take one of them instead. Don't tempt fate there. I think that's one of those tempting fate situations.
And Samford and Furman.
Furman's your team, right?
Well, they're not my team. I mean,
I'm just saying.
They're here
in the neighborhood.
They're just down the street, basically. I like Bob Ritchie's team. I mean, but they're going on the road here. Samford has played well, which is surprising. And by the way, that's Samford. We're not talking about Fred Sanford from Sanford and Son. For those of you out there that remember Red Fox,
right?
Samford, they've won 8 out of 9. Furman has won 2 straight because they had a 3-game losing skid where they lost to UNC Greensboro, then East Tennessee State, then Chattanooga. It's basically a battle for second in the SoCon, I believe, because Furman's 2 games ahead of Samford. Let me just see what they did in the first meeting real quick. Samford. Furman won by 32 at home back in December. This is going to be a lot closer game than that, but I think Furman will prevail.
Will prevail by a little less than 32 then.
Yeah, it'll be less than, like they say, more than 1, less than 32. So, we narrowed it down for you pretty good there.
Yeah, stay away from it.
I think the line is like 5 or something like that. But if you're playing the money line, I would probably go Furman.
There you go. But so, all right, tell you what, we got a lot of stuff planned for Thursday and Friday for you. We're going to really tomorrow delve as deeply as possible into the USFL draft. We haven't had much information on that yet. Not all kidding aside, the NBA returns tomorrow, so we'll have some of that. Of course, we have college basketball, the NHL, and a number of other topics. So, guys, it's been a pleasure, and gals. Remember to hit that like button, smash it, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so that you can be notified anytime we're on, which is 1:30 Mondays through Friday. Okay.
Shea Patterson, number 1 overall pick in the USFL draft.
Oh, see, there you go. It never stops, and we'll have more for you. All that in-depth information that you need to know on the USFL, we'll know it tomorrow. Remember, 3 o'clock today, at the top of the hour, it's Back to the Window with Scott and Scott, and all that fun stuff right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. Check out, by the way, our buddy Allie and her show, which not when we're on. Check it on. Check it out later. And a lot of friends over there at Picks and Parlays, so check them out too. So between those of us here at Winners and Whiners and our buddies over at Picks and Parlays, you got plenty of fun stuff to check out right here on YouTube and all the other platforms that we're on. So until tomorrow, gang, bring your pens and pencils, bring your questions. The professor will be in, and I'll be here to help I'll clean the erasers and the chalkboard for you. All right. So until that time, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful